So we started talking about this reference table on Thursday before you take the test. Oh, and before I get too far, because I kind of forgot at the end of last period, you do have homework tonight. No matter what we get through today, you're having homework. It's on page 4 of your chapter 6 packet. I handed out the chapter 6 packets on Thursday last week. Were you absent? Because if you were absent, I need to give you one. Ted, thanks for your assistance, but we got this. Sorry, you did a really thick one. Did you guys double check? Do you have that packet? Lily? No? Well, it's up there. Yep, just page 4. There's 13 questions there. You do need to use the reference tables, pages 8 and 9, okay? Sorry, Lily, I forgot to hit double-sided, so it's really big. You get a special one. Again, everybody know what their homework is? Page 4 in your chapter 6 packet. Chapter 6 packet looks like this. Page 4 looks like that. So just those 13 questions. All right, so we're gonna get started. This reference table, I started talking about it on Thursday. I mentioned it's pretty messy. There's a lot going on here and it is super important to the regions. Think about it. On your cheat sheet, your reference table, they devoted 2 whole pages to this out of 16. So that's a lot of pages. So expect a lot of questions on these 2 pages. The good news is everything they will ask you is right there in black, white, and gray. Everything that they ever will ask you is right there. You don't have to think, you just have to find it. The problem is it's super messy. So what we're going to talk about is how this reference table works. I mentioned on Thursday, it's a timeline. Now, normally you're used to looking at timelines going across the paper, like you would start with, I was born, important events, and then like today. This one's backward. It's not necessarily backwards, it's just different. Everybody find today on this reference table. Is it labeled today? No. How many millions of years ago is today? Trick question here. 0 million years ago is today. So see how it says millions of years ago right here? I would like you to label that today, right there. Right where it says 0 million years ago, that's today. You can use, I would use your, whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. I don't know who said that, but whatever floats your boat. So today is 0 million years ago. So for this reference table, today is at the top and it gets older as you go down until you get to the bottom here. That's 4,600 million years ago. So these are all in millions of years here. So it says that right there, millions of years ago. So this is 500 million, 1,000 million, 2,000 million, 3,000 million, 4,000 million. By the way, have you ever heard those numbers? 4,000 million? Is that how they taught you to say it when you were learning how to say millions back in the day? It is not. The highest millions you would have talked about would have been 999 million. They never talked about 3,000 million. So the Regents is using this just, again, to try and mess with your head. Let's talk about what 4,600 million means. What does 4,600 million mean? It means to write the number 4,600 and add a million's worth of zeros. Do you guys know how many zeros are in a million? Not a million. 6. So all you do is you write 4,600 and plop 6 zeros after that. And then if you want to go back and add your commas, remember you add those from the right. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma. Not 4.6 million. This number that I just wrote here is 4,600,000,000. Also, just like Ted just tried to say, it is 4.6 billion. These three ways of writing this number are all the same. So I did just write them here. I see most of you doing it too. Good. That, by the way, if you notice right where it's labeled, what is that labeled? Right next to estimated origin of Earth and the solar system. So in other words, that's when the Earth was born. That's how old the Earth is, 4,600,000,000. Not something you have to memorize. So unlike in global, when you have to remember the first day of World War II or something, you got to memorize that date. You don't here. The date is on your cheat sheet, your reference table. You just need to know where to look. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is talk about how this timeline works. Again, today is here, and it gets older as you go down. They included some important events. So they included some important life on Earth events. So if you look down this column, you'll see some important things like the earliest humans. Tells you when dinosaurs went extinct and when the earliest dinosaurs were there. Tells you some fun facts about things that were alive. Now, they don't go into all the details, like they forgot my birthday. It's not on there. They probably should have included it, just saying. It's very important. April 5th, for any of you who forgot, it's coming up. Mark your calendars. It's more like 2. The most important day of the year. My birthday. Ooh, that's coming close. All right, anyway, just remember, add a Connor to it. Connor, you might want to add it to your calendar. April 5th, Mrs. Ritz turns 39. Add it so you don't forget your calendar. I like chocolate, coffee, candles. All right, anyway. Coffee scented candles, number 1. Moving on, sorry. All right, so they included important events. They didn't go into super big details, like even with dinosaurs. They say earliest dinosaurs, they say abundant dinosaurs. They tell us when dinosaurs went extinct, but they don't tell us like when the Triceratops showed up on Earth. So they don't go into even details about dinosaurs. They just tell us a little bit about them. We're going to get to this column tomorrow, but if we look over here, this is important geological events. So this is like all the earth science-y things that have happened on Earth, like Pangea or mountain building. That's all in this geological events. So here is earth science stuff. This is more like living environment stuff. So they're both on here, but they're just labeled with important events. Then you can see here, if you look at these globes, what do you notice different about these globes at the end? Yeah, they're showing you continental drift. So this one looks pretty much like it does today. Here you can see the continents were much closer. Here you can see that they were all pretty much attached. They even highlighted North America for you. So you could see that North America used to be by the equator, drifted a little north until its present day location. So those are there. They're all labeled too with how many millions of years ago they were. So you don't even have to estimate. All right, so they put some important events on here. Just like if we were doing one of you, they'd talk about your first tooth or the first time you took a step. Here, they put events on life on Earth and geological events. The next thing we got to do is how do they break up time? Now, you guys know, what are some time units that we use? You don't have to write this. I'm just going to write it. What are some time units that we use currently? We talk about centuries. I still don't remember how to spell this. All right, centuries. That's 100 years in case anybody didn't know. You don't need to know this. I'm just using this as an example. That's 100 years. What does centuries get broken up into? Decades. So centuries are bigger than decades. And again, if you don't know this, that's 10 years. What do decades get broken up into? Just plain old regular years. What do years get broken up into? Before days, months, yeah. Then weeks. Then weeks. Then days. Then minutes. Oh no, then hours. So then days, then hours, then minutes, then seconds, then milliseconds. I could keep going, but you guys get the gist of this, right? Century is the biggest thing. That gets broken up into decades. Decades are bigger than years. Years are bigger than months. Months are bigger than weeks. The same concept is true when we're talking about Earth's history, except for they have different names and they are labeled right along the top here. So an eon is the biggest unit of time. An eon gets broken up into the eras. So an eon gets broken up into an era. Eras get broken up into periods. Periods get broken up into these epochs. And epochs, if you notice right here, it says millions of years again. They get broken up into millions of years. So if you wanted to include those greater than signs, you could. An eon is greater than an era. An era is bigger than a period. A period is bigger than an epoch. And so what we're going to do right now is color code this reference table according to how they're broken up. So I want to point out that they put these in order here and they go in order on the reference table for the most part. See this black line right here? It goes all the way down the reference table and across. I call that the black line of confusedness. Now that's not an official term. What do you think I mean by the black line of confusedness? Yeah, it's a line that causes people to be confused. Black line of confusedness. Now here, it's easy if everything is, if you're looking at the stuff above the black line. So by above, I mean the word Phanerozoic. And then going down here, all of this stuff is above the black line. The key here with this number, you cannot use these millions of years over here. See this second row of millions of years right here? These are the numbers you're going to use for anything that's above the black line of confusedness. The stuff above is actually easier to look at than the stuff below. So here's what we're going to do. Grab your, pretty much your least favorite color from the colored pencils you picked up. Now, if you don't have enough colored pencils, grab one from a neighbor who has some too. What we're going to do is we're going to color code these different eras. So grab your second or your least favorite color. See this little section right here, just this little blue section, or for me now it's now blue. We can't even see that. Here, I'm gonna go to my, I'm not gonna do it this way because you can see. Here's what I mean, maybe. This. So we'll go this way, you can see better. All right, so see how I colored that little section orange? Follow that over to the word Cenozoic. All the way across both sheets of paper. So just that here, I'll go back to the little section. So just that little tiny section first. Then to the whole section labeled Cenozoic. Make sure you're not coloring so dark that you can't see underneath it. And then you're going to go across all the way to both sheets of paper. And I know coloring is fun, but we can't spend the whole period coloring. So find a happy medium between coloring neatly and coloring fast, please. Anybody in desperate need of a pencil being sharpened? You can't function with what you got going on. you guys leave your colored pencils on your desk for my next class so I don't have to go through this with them as well? Anybody else have a colored pencil that you just can't handle? Look at the rest of them on your desk. Are you gonna need others sharpened? Color the globe too, guys, so all the way across. I appreciate your beautiful coloring, and it is very nice coloring.
Yep.
Anybody else gonna need some sharpened? All right. If you haven't finished coloring, speed it up. It's okay. Okay, I want to talk about a few of the things. So remember how I said you cannot use for anything above the black line. You cannot use the millions of years ago on the left. You have to use the millions of years ago over here in the middle section. And here's why. Let's look at the top of where you just colored. What number is the top? It's today and it's labeled 0 million years ago, isn't it? Isn't there a 0 right there? So that one lines up. But let's look at the bottom of where you just finished coloring. How many millions of years ago is it listed right there? What is it? 65.5 million years ago. If you were to follow that over, does that line up where 65 belongs? No, again, that's why. If you are above the black line of confusedness, so just the black line, you cannot use these numbers. You have to use the ones in the middle section. Okay? By the way, which one of these is when the Cenozoic began? So we just colored the Cenozoic. When did it begin? At the 0 million years ago or the 65.5? Right. Something begins longer ago than it ends. Does that statement make sense? It is common sense, but not when you're looking at this reference table. I don't think it's common sense. We usually like to think of things starting here and then ending here. It's vice versa here. Remember, world started here. So you have to do whatever's at the bottom is when that section started. All right, we're gonna do the same thing. Grab your second favorite color. So again, now we're going to just this middle section here. So I still had my orange section on the top. Now I'll go with that middle. And then you're going to color where the whole word Mesozoic is. So right now you're coloring the Mesozoic era. The Mesozoic era gets broken up into those 3 periods: the Cretaceous, the Jurassic, and the Triassic. And you're going to go all the way across the paper. And this time it does include both globes at the end. So there's 2 2 globes for this one. All right, if you're not almost done, speed it up. And I'm not sure if you heard me the first time, but you are including both of these globes over here. So you do have to loop down a little bit to color in that second globe. Like I said, if you're not almost done, I know how much fun it is to color, but please speed it up. All right, I want to talk about some of this stuff. First of all, let me ask you this. What year did the Mesozoic era, how many millions of years ago did it begin? Good, so again, we got the begin is lower than the end. So here's the Mesozoic when it began at 251. How about if we talk about the 3 things that it talks about for the dinosaurs? Look in what that last section you just colored. So in my green section, find anything mentioning dinosaurs in there. What's it say? No, what does it say about dinosaurs? Says right here, I believe it says earliest dinosaurs. What else does it say about dinosaurs? No, I just want dinosaurs. Abundant dinosaurs right here. There's one more thing this talks about with dinosaurs. I guess it might be kind of in your last section of color. Mass extinction right here at the very top of my green section. Mass extinction of dinosaurs. The reason I'm pointing this out is you can't just read the word dinosaurs. You have to read what the question is saying. So if the question asks you about earliest dinosaurs, you have to look at earliest. If they ask you about abundant, you have to look at abundant. If they ask you about mass extinction of, you look up there. So you got to read all the words carefully. Remember, number 1 rule of earth science is to read all the words. So you got to read the words early, abundant, and mass extinction. How about this? How many millions of years ago was the earliest dinosaur on Earth? So my question was, how many millions of years ago was the earliest dinosaur? Does it have a label? It doesn't have a label. So what should we do if it doesn't have its own label? What? I can't read next to it. Nope. Can't just say 200 and whatever that is. What should we do then? If here's where it says earliest, but there's no label. We have to estimate. And I can't read what it says up here. So gotta look here. Oops, and I have the wrong one circled, but that's okay. Here is earliest dinosaurs. This line was labeled 251, and this one's labeled 200. So are the earliest dinosaurs on 200? Are they on 251? So what should I estimate the dinosaurs to be at? 240 works? Anybody else? 230 works? How about 260? No, because that's down here. That's lower than 251. So you won't have to be exact as long as your number fits in between those numbers. How about when was the mass extinction of dinosaurs? Mass extinction of dinosaurs. 65.5. Did you have to estimate with that one? See how it's got that bracket that kind of looks like this, mass extinction? That bracket pointing right to the line tells you that one happens right at the 65.5. So no estimating required, but that's the only time you don't estimate. Any other time, like when almost all of them are not right on the line. So you do have to estimate for all the other events. Okay, we got some time. Let's keep going. Let's do the same thing for this. I would use your favorite color for this because it's the biggest section. So this is just that last section of the Phanerozoic. Goes all the way down and across. So it's a pretty big section. All right, I'm doing the same coloring and I'm halfway done. So if you're not, speed up. So I'm going to just ask a couple questions while you're still coloring. First of all, do you notice how much you will have colored when you're done with this section? A lot, most of it. So you've colored a lot. All of this stuff that you have colored really all belongs in that top tiny section right here. So if everybody could just look up for a second. Everything you've colored fits in this little section on the reference table. but they blew it up to fit all of the information that you've just colored. So the Phanerozoic eon, remember eons are the biggest grouping. The Phanerozoic eon only takes up 542 million years. I knew that exact number because it's written right there. So everything above the black line, even though that's most of the reference table, only fits in this little itty bitty section. And if you think of this as a football field, with this being your own end zone, there, Mr. D, I learned the words. If this is your own end zone and you want to get a touchdown over here in this end zone, if you were here, you're almost getting a touchdown, right? Right? Almost. You've gone more than 3/4 of the way. You're at like the 10-yard line practically. So if this was a football field and you compare Earth's age and all the important stuff, most of it's at the very end of the football field. The last 13 seconds of it right there. Too soon? Too soon? Okay. Sorry. Sorry, got distracted. So what I'm trying to say is most of the stuff on Earth, because look at all the stuff you colored. Compared to the stuff you haven't colored, is there many events listed in the white section that's left? There's not. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 13 things we didn't color. I'm not even going to try to count all the things we colored. There was a lot of stuff we colored. So what this is really saying is look how much stuff happened just recently compared to how boring it was for the rest of the time. So the Earth was actually pretty boring for the first 4.1 billion years. The Earth was pretty darn boring. And then all the stuff started happening at 542 million years ago. I think we have time to color one last section and then you can leave the colored pencils on your desks. So we're going to break down here into the Precambrian and we're going to start. Now here it gets messed up. See the word Proterozoic? That's one of the eras of the Precambrian. You're going to color the Proterozoic, late, early, and middle. Mrs. Ritz. Okay, bye. Ted, Mrs. Slocum needs you after the class. Now this one gets a little weird here, sorry. See how you're gonna color in over these first two sections, but then you're gonna go around that bubble there. You don't wanna include that. Then you go down and finish the bottom. Yes, perfect. So you're gonna go around that set of words. Yes, color there. No, you want to go with this. So like Cynthia said, you're coloring a gray spot. I guess we should have just left it gray. Yeah, that's what we do in my next class. Never noticed that. We got the gray and then we'll leave a white section. But you guys are enjoying your coloring. Oh my gosh, you have a sharpener, don't you?
Yeah.
Man, the stress. I didn't know the coloring was going to cause stress. So we obviously have some more to talk about with this reference table, but you have the basics. I want you to get started on, well, no, you don't have time, but you have homework. Remember we checked it, page 4 of your chapter 6 packet. If you guys could try to leave the colored pencils on the desk, if there's a way to make them not fall, I'd appreciate it. As they all hit the ground.